Hello and welcome to the Quick News Daily podcast. We give you the news in under 20 minutes every single day, guaranteed. No fluff, no filler, just the real stories that matter to you. I would venture to guess that most of you know who I am. But I'm not going to open with my name today for a startling reason, maybe a unjustified reason. But over the weekend, as these protests raged, as the police, heavily militarized looking police were called in, there was over 100 instances, according to one journalist who was tracking it, of police targeting journalists, despite those journalists either identifying themselves as members of the press, or in some cases holding a camera, and they were still attacked with rubber bullets, batons, tear gas, in spite of all that. And I think that sets a very ominous tone for what's actually at play here. That, along with some just awful pictures of police taking down an American flag to raise a Blue Lives Matter flag, showing exactly where their priorities lie. It's the same reason they are willing to trade thousands of arrests of protesters for 3 people who are so clearly involved in the murder. They were protecting their own, 3 of their own. They are refusing to arrest them as of now. The case has been turned over to Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison, who you'll recognize was a member of Congress for Minnesota, the first Muslim representative in Congress, so if nothing else, he knows something about being an outsider, a minority. And Reverend Al Sharpton himself said that they have more confidence in him to carry out justice than, obviously, the local prosecutor. So, good on that front. Alright, so several pieces of news I want to address before we get into the quick news commentary portion of the show. First off, you may have seen that yesterday Trump was taking refuge in the bunker that has not been used since 9/11. Dick Cheney went down there in case the White House was hit or attacked in any way, but Trump decided that he was so afraid of the protesters out front that he was going to go hide in the bunker. And a lot was made about the White House lights going out. They turned them off, the exterior lights, and it really looks like a symbol for what Trump's leadership is, which is to run and hide. The same guy who said that he would run in to stop a school shooter even if he was unarmed somehow can't stand protesters outside of the White House. But several reporters have said that it's commonplace, like it's procedure for them to turn out the lights at 11 p.m. But it's the optics of the thing. Most people don't know that. We don't have those shots on it. So optically, it just looks terrible. But it is true. Joe Biden was out there with the protesters yesterday taking pictures throughout the entire weekend, and Trump was hiding in the bunker and tweeting. You may have also seen something about Antifa. It stands for anti-fascists, and they are what the right likes to pin on Democrats and the liberals. It's like a far-left group. Again, stands for anti-fascists. They are the more, I guess, they're extreme activists, and they do sometimes resort to violence, but it's not an organized group. There's no official members or leadership. But Trump said in a tweet that he's declaring them a terrorist group, which he cannot do because you can't claim domestic groups as terrorist groups. But notice how quickly he did that, but the KKK is untouched. He said nothing about them. I think that goes along with the hypocritical nature of the protests last month to reopen everything. You had all these white guy neckbeards showing up at the Capitol, screaming in cops' faces without a mask, armed with AKs and ARs and all these other long weapons. And no tear gas was used. Nothing was made of it. No police intervention, except to block from getting too far inside the state capitals. But now you have protesters, and looks like a war zone out there. You got the National Guard coming in. It's just, that's a stark contrast in itself. I think that about sums it up. The difference there in how these protests were treated, I think says it all. Now I'm going to have a lot of clips on today's show, just because I think there are a lot of people who are more qualified than myself to be speaking on these issues, and who have said it better than I ever could. But one thing I will say And I hate to make any comment because it can be taken out of context and all that, but I'm going to anyway. I've seen some groups online, some people online, saying that, oh, the Democrats built this system that doesn't empower black people, that imprisons them. And then sometimes I even saw they're saying like, oh, this is all the liberals' fault. And that they're just as bad as those conservatives and Republicans. And I just think to myself, then who's left? I just wish that sort of talk would stop. That's not popular, and it really doesn't matter in any case. My opinion, I mean. But there's no third party rising up before November. And there's only one party that you'll see waving the Confederate flag. That you will see empowering people who do that. The very fine people, as they call them. That's not Democrats. And if you look at all the bills that the Democratic House has passed since they won the midterms in 2018, it's all bills that are aimed at helping average people, average everyday people. So they are on our side, I assure you. I assure you. I know Joe Biden has made mistakes in the past, but I don't know how you can look at the two of them this weekend and say that they'll be the same. Joe Biden is out there talking with people, taking pictures, and Donald Trump is inciting violence from a bunker. And there's a lot of debate over peaceful protest versus, taking things a little bit farther. And there's been a lot of calls by people saying, I'm on your side, but I don't support the violence. And I can get that. I don't necessarily understand how violence will solve things. But at the same time, people didn't want Kaepernick to kneel. That was the enemy. It was so bad that he was disrespecting your flag, you didn't want him to kneel. In fact, there's really no answer to when is a good time to protest. Is there ever a good time to protest? I'm not sure. Like I played in my Chernobyl review episode, one of the characters has a line that says, "Every lie we tell incurs a debt to the truth." And I think that what we are seeing is boiling over of a lot of things right now. One, people have been cooped up from the coronavirus. That has led to more people watching coverage on TV about a lot of things, including George Floyd's murder. So that's spilling over, and then years of racism and oppression. And people thought that they could vote for Donald Trump and get away with it. It was just going to be 4 years, maybe 8 tops, but everything would be fine. But they incurred a debt, and that debt is coming due. And I guess I don't expect them to know anything about debts since Donald Trump just files bankruptcy every single time he has it. And one last point I want to make that just made me think. Anonymous, you may have heard they're back, the hacking group, famous hacking group. They have been silent for about 3 years, but now they are back and being active again, which is a big deal. But they said about peaceful protests that that's what the people in power want, because they know that nothing will ever change if it happens. They can just keep the order and make small changes to appease the crowd. And it just made me think, is it sometimes necessary to make a point because they haven't been listened to so far? I don't know. I guess what I'm trying to say, but I really don't know how to put into words, is that I myself am a pacifist on almost every single level. I don't think physical pain is always the answer. But I also think that it is not my place or expertise to tell this group of people what to do, because that's sort of the problem in the first place. I can make my pleadings with them as a human, on a human level, but I just think, especially with just that stark hypocrisy of having a problem with Colin Kaepernick taking a knee, and just the awful, awful trick the universe played by having George Floyd murdered with an officer kneeling on his neck. It's like the universe is laughing in our face. Or they're just trying to send us a sign. Like, hey, you didn't want this, so this happened. I think this lady that they just interviewed on MSNBC probably exemplified it best. It was this middle-aged white woman, but she was holding up a sign at a rally in Minnesota saying, "Listen to black people." And what she had to say was, we, as white people, always want to come in and try to fix the problem. Just rush in and say, I have the answer. But that just doesn't work. So it's time for us to show our support, be vocal, show up to protests, but to be there for support and not necessarily trying to take the lead and solve everything. So that's what I'm trying to say, I guess, is it's time for us to listen and support. I want to play a couple clips here. First of all, along those lines, Terrance Floyd just spoke about an hour ago at the time of this recording. He's the brother of George Floyd, and he had this very important message.
Let's do this another way. Let's stop thinking that our voice don't matter. That's right. And vote.
There you go.
Not just vote for the president, vote for the preliminaries, vote for everybody. Educate yourself. Educate yourself. Don't wait for somebody else to tell you who's who. Educate yourself and know who you're voting for. And that's how we gonna hit them. Because it's a lot of us.
He's saying to do it another way and to vote, which is, he has incredible composure for what he's going through, a very, very clear sense of purpose and direction, and he just has this clarity, which is amazing at this time. And I think that is an important message that earlier he said, we don't want to burn our house down because that's what they want, meaning that Trump and the Republicans will use it against all of us to say that we're just radicals who want to burn everything down. And that we have to keep our eyes on the prize and vote. And I think that's a good message, and I'm very thankful to him for saying that. Next we have a clip that is popping up again that I think is so relevant. It kind of goes against it's just a few bad apples in the police. And it really made me think. This is a Chris Rock bit, and it's hilarious, but also really on point.
Here's the thing. I know it's hard being a cop. I know it's hard. I know that shit's dangerous. I know it is, okay? But some jobs can't have bad apples, okay? Some jobs, everybody gotta be good. Like pilots. You know? American Airlines can't be like, most of our pilots like to land. We just got a few bad apples that like to crash in the mountains. Please bear with us.
So I think that's all I had for the news today, for quick news commentary. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you are staying safe out there. And it's painful. It's painful out there. And I think we all just kind of want something. It's only June 1st. And we've had a pandemic like 1918, an impeachment like 1974, and now racism and riots like it's 1968, with someone who's like President Andrew Johnson from 1865. It's just like 2020 is rolling in dice to see what terrible event in history that we're going to go back to. Man, I do not want to see what's next. If you're feeling exhausted, I'm there with you. I also just wish everything would be normal. But like I've been trying to say and try to remind myself, we can come out of this in something that was better than normal. And I sure hope we do. I'm going to leave this on a funny note here. This is from the Last Podcast Network. Ben Kissel of Last Podcast on the left. This is called Abe Lincoln's Top Hat. And it's a comedy politics show that they run. And they have this funny reading of these crazy, crazy Trump tweets that make him sound insane, but we already knew that. About the Secret Service guarding the White House. And they're so insane that they have to be read like this because they're so insane. And as Ben Kissel says at the end, if it wasn't so dangerous, it'd be almost funny. So, again, read like it's adult fiction. This part is probably 18 plus. Don't play it in front of the kiddos, I guess. And if you don't want to hear it, that's all we have for today. Thank you for listening. Stay safe, and we'll talk tomorrow.
Travis can read us a little bit of what we're calling Donald Trump Secret Service fan fiction.
So this is @Real Donald Trump. He says, great job last night at the White House by the U.S. Secret Service.
Ooh.
They were not only professional, but very cool.
Oh, they were cool.
I was inside, watched every move, and couldn't have felt more safe. They let the protesters scream and rant as much as they want, But whenever someone got too frisky or out of line, they would quickly come down on them hard. Didn't even know what hit them.
Wow.
The front line was replaced with fresh agents, like magic. Big crowd, professionally organized, but nobody came close to breaching the fence.
Ooh,
If
breach
they had,
the fence.
If they had, they would have been greeted with the most vicious dogs and most ominous weapons I have ever seen.
Oh my God.
That's when people would have been badly hurt, at least. Many Secret Service agents just waiting for actions. We put the young ones on the front line, sir.
Yes, you do. Oh, put the young ones in front, yeah.
They love it, and it's just good practice. As
Oh,
you
my
saw
God.
last night, they were very cool. Never let it get out of hand. Thank you. On the bad side, the DC mayor, Muriel Bowser, who's always looking for money and help, wouldn't let the DC police get involved. Not their job. Nice.
Oh my God. If it wasn't so dangerous for the president to be tweeting like a maniac, it would almost be comical.